What if I told you there's a tool for self-improvement that's been road-tested for nearly 2,000 years? Well, in this explainer, we're diving into the wisdom of an ancient Buddhist text called the Sutra on Accepting the Vasa. It's an amazing guide to seeing ourselves with total clarity. So let's start with a question that's, well, it's pretty simple on the surface, but it's also incredibly deep. How clearly do you really see yourself? I mean, your habits, your real motivations, all those little blind spots. And look, this isn't just some philosophical thought experiment. It's the absolute foundation for any real growth. And the answer, or at least a path to it, comes from this text. Now, really quick, the Vasa was this annual rainy season retreat for Buddhist monks. It was a dedicated time for some serious, intense self-reflection. And this sutra gives us this powerful metaphor for that whole process, a metaphor that's just as relevant for our busy, chaotic lives today. Okay, so here's the core idea, and it's so simple, it's brilliant. The text asks us to think of our mind as a mirror. The clarity of that mirror, and even more importantly, how you react to what you see in it, well, that determines your entire path. According to the sutra, when we look into this mental mirror, we don't just see one thing. We see one of two fundamental types of people, two completely different ways of engaging with the world, and, more importantly, with ourselves. The sutra calls them the difficult to teach and the easy to teach. Now, hang on, these aren't meant to be judgments. Think of them more as descriptions of how receptive we are to seeing ourselves as we really are. It's all about our willingness to actually engage with what that mirror shows us.
The difficult to teach folks are the ones whose mental mirror is so caked with grime, ingrained habits and negativity, that they can't see their own reflection clearly. So they might seem resistant to feedback, but really, it's because they can't even see the problem in the first place.
And then, on the other hand, you have the easy to teach. Their mirror is clear. They're open, they're receptive, and because they can see their reflection accurately, they're ready to learn and grow from whatever they see, good or bad. So, if the goal is to have a clear mirror, we've got to ask, what is all this dust and grime that clouds our reflection? The sutra gives this surprisingly detailed list of these mental defilements. And you know what? They sound a lot like what modern psychology might call cognitive distortions or negative thought patterns. First up, anger and hatred, the big ones. These powerful emotions are like a thick layer of mud just smeared right across the glass. They completely distort how we see ourselves and everyone else. Then you've got things like stinginess and jealousy. The text kind of sees these as corrosive, like an acid that eats away at the reflective coating on the back of the mirror. Over time, it just makes a clear reflection totally impossible. The text also calls out flattery and illusion, which is basically just deceit. This is when we don't just let the mirror get dirty. We're actively holding up a funhouse mirror, trying to create a twisted, false image for others, and yep, for ourselves too. Now this one is fascinating. Ingratitude, a simple lack of thankfulness. The sutra says this is a huge factor that clouds how we see ourselves. It's like, without gratitude, the mirror just loses its shine. And the list goes on, covering all sorts of negative social behaviors. Gossip, always picking fights, hanging around with people who bring out the worst in you. All of these things just add another layer of dust to that mirror. Okay, so you look in the mirror and you see all this dust. What do? This is where the sutra's wisdom really shines. It turns what could be a moment of shame into a huge moment of opportunity. The text lays out its core metaphor so perfectly here. Just imagine you're looking at your own face in a totally clean mirror. The whole entire process hinges on what you do next, and that depends completely on what you see. So here's the crucial point. If you see some dirt on your face, you don't despair. You don't judge yourself. You just feel this simple, uncomplicated urge to clean it. And on the flip side, if you see a clean face, you feel a natural sense of joy and delight. The reaction is practical, not some big emotional drama. And that right there illustrates the entire point so brilliantly. Self-awareness isn't about beating yourself up. Seeing your flaws, seeing the dust, isn't a sign that you've failed. It's the first, most essential step toward cleaning the mirror. In a way, seeing the dust is actually a moment of success. So what happens then? What happens when you start cleaning? This simple act of noticing and wiping away the dust sets off this powerful chain reaction, leading from one small, practical action to a truly profound state of being. It all starts with a kind of joy in the process.
That joy leads to physical ease and relaxation. That sense of ease allows your mind to become settled and peaceful. And only when your mind is peaceful can you see things as they really are, and that's true insight. And that insight, finally, is what leads to liberation.
And what is this liberation? Well, the Sutra describes it as this deep state of peace. It's the end of that restless, nagging feeling of dissatisfaction we all know. It's a feeling of completion that comes from having a perfectly polished, crystal-clear mirror for a mind.
So, this ancient text leaves us with a very immediate and personal challenge. It's inviting every single one of us to pick up our own mental mirror, to look honestly at what's there, and to find some real joy in the simple, powerful act of wiping away the dust.